I have a bit of a story to tell about a moose hunt I did in the Yukon.
You can take it if you want. We see a bull.
I drew a special guiding license or a buddy hunting license in the Yukon, which allows me as a non-resident Canadian to go and hunt with a Yukon resident. The moose in the Yukon are huge, and the legendary wilderness they have there, couldn't imagine a better setting for such a trip. So I was in. I actually finished off a solo canoe trip down a river called the Wolf River, which was amazing. Then I planned on doing this trip with Ryan. Now, Ryan owns a company called Yukon Expedition Sleds that make high quality sleds or toboggans essentially to pull behind snowmobiles. But now Ryan is actually developing a boat made out of plastic, HDPE to be precise. This boat was behind schedule. It had not been tested. It's the first of its kind in Canada. And I was a tad concerned because we had 290 kilometers to travel in this boat through a remote area of the Yukon. Wow, this is already beautiful. We got snow in the mountains, fall colors, just traveling by a big bluff here. And we're actually gonna be sleeping out in this boat, pulling up to shore and putting a camper roof on us and sleeping right in the boat. Makes breaking camp a lot easier. And we're doing okay. There's decent flow here. We don't have to burn a ton of gas. We don't need to go fast. And essentially we're looking for moose. We don't have a ton of time. If we get ahead, we might head off into the country, glass for some moose and do some calling. But essentially we're hoping that we have a chance to see one that's a good size along the river. Ryan is a very experienced Yukoner, very experienced backcountry hunter as well, so I feel like I'm in good hands.
Well, it's good to start looking where there's actually moose, and a good telltale sign is looking for tracks on the sandbars of where they're traveling, because if there's a cow in an area, a lot of bulls will come and harass that cow and fight and make lots of tracks. So like when I look at this at first glance, there's not a lot of sign of any kind of really fresh footprints, so we know that this isn't an area worth looking at.
Right off the hop, the scenery was absolutely beautiful. We're sort of mid-September, closer to the beginning of September, but there's already snow in the mountains. The leaves are changing color and it just looks gorgeous. And we had pretty nice weather too, although, you know, the nights at this time of year get cold. We're traveling in a 40 horsepower outboard that has a jet propulsion bottom to it, so you can take this thing through shallower water. And Ryan will also sometimes use his electric trolling motor just for, you know, to more quietly putter along and to save gas for the larger engine.
We're just kind of going slow with the current, and Ryan's manning the electric motor there just to save gas. And he's doing some calling, basically imitating a cow that's trying to call in a bull. And we're hoping that that attracts some bulls towards us. One of the interesting things you can see in the bluffs here is a white line, and that's actually a layer of volcanic ash from a volcano that erupted, a massive eruption here many eons ago, I believe. And some places that ash layer is much higher to the surface, but it covers a huge area of the Yukon. Dark soon, and we're still cruising downriver. Haven't seen anything yet. Temperatures dropped quite a bit. Good thing about camping in the boat is we can kind of camp anywhere, so I'm not too worried about finding a campsite. Ryan's back there on the electric motor right now, and we're hoping we can connect. This is a good time. Okay, so we just got off the boat to explore this little side slope. It's a little dry side channel. So we're just gonna listen and just snap branches so we sound like a moose.
You know, it's not like these TV shows and whatnot make it look like. There's not a moose around every corner. Like, there's far more moose in BC and other areas, for example. It's just that the moose are bigger in the Yukon. And there's still a very good population. There's 2 moose for every person in the Yukon. And a lot of them are in remote areas that are hard to access. So we called basically until it's pitch black, light our fire, and then we actually would keep calling. And that's essentially to call a moose into the area that we might be able to get once it gets light the next morning.
Yeah, it's nice. So easy to prepare, really, too, eh? What do you think of the ribs?
Oh, spectacular.
So you guys brought these on your sheep hunt?
Yeah.
You're starting to feel good about getting something now that we're a little deeper down the river?
Yeah, the conditions are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen what I'm looking for or heard what I'm looking for yet.
No fresh sign yet, eh?
No. Like, usually when we like get a moose, it's usually like we pull into a little back channel, just fucking tracks everywhere, and you can tell like moose have been fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And the water's still murky. You find that spot, then you're gonna have some fun.
One of the cool things about Ryan's boat is that it's got enough space and it's a cozy place to sleep with a cover on top too. So you don't have to worry about setting up a tent. All you have to do is move your stuff out of the boat at night, sleep, and then move your stuff back in.
Okay, well, we are just tucked in here, sleeping in the boat. Here's the boat cover. Ryan's just getting it buttoned up there. Oh yeah, and we have a little diesel heater strapped onto the back, so it's supposed to go down to about -10 tonight. And when we wake up and it's absolutely freezing cold, we're gonna run that heater, just heat it up in here, and have a coffee in here probably.
If there was one piece of gear I wish I had on this trip, it would be the Suunto Vertical 2 smartwatch. I'm gonna jump back to my home woods for a minute here to show you what I can do.
Okay, well, rainy day here in my neck of the woods. Talking about the Suunto Vertical 2 smartwatch.
The watch has a built-in flashlight, which is actually really handy in a lot of situations, particularly when you're fumbling around camp in the dark trying to find your headlamp. It's good up to 65 hours of battery life with GPS in the most accurate dual band mode. So that's using all satellite systems. Having that long battery life makes all the difference when it comes to a watch, because having to recharge it all the time is just one more thing you don't want to do out there. One of the biggest updates is the new 1.5-inch Allomed screen. It's larger, The resolution is bumped up to 466 by 466, and it's bright and easy to read, even in full sun. The watch is also tested to military standards, so it's built for the kind of rough travel most of us put our gear through. But what I like most about it is the mapping. You can pull up detailed maps right on the watch, see exactly where you are, and zoom in and out with the touch screen or the buttons. For backcountry trips, being able to check your position at a glance, measure distances, even the length of a portage, or see how long it is before the sun's down is very useful. If you want to check it out for yourself, there's a link in the description. You've seen me wearing old school watches or just no watch at all in my past trips, but now you're going to see me wearing the Sunto Vertical 2 on my trips. Love this thing.
So we had a long way to travel because for this trip, we'd only given ourselves 3 full days and a half day on either side. So 4 nights, and we had a long way to travel. Up at 7, which is about first light, and started calling in the area where we camped with no response. So we loaded up the boat right away and started traveling, looking for more moose, calling from the boat, and just enjoying ourselves and keeping our eyes peeled for moose as well, constantly glassing, using binoculars to look as we go along.
We actually have a little diesel heater that's mounted right behind the tarp here on the back. That little diesel heater will help defog the windows, but also on cold mornings will help keep us warm. It's awesome. It's a good night sleeping in the boat. So we're just cruising downriver and we're looking for back channels, even dry ones that we can explore on foot. But we just found a big back channel that looks like it has water in it. So we're gonna try to cruise up there in the boat and see if we can see anything.
What's that black spot way over there under the cliff?
Fresh tracks.
We boiled up some water to make coffee and oatmeal as we traveled and as we hunted out of the boat.
Wouldn't be a Jim Baird video without a little oatmeal. Okay, well, no takers there, so on to the next spot. We're kind of running and gunning, like we're not staying in one spot and calling for half an hour, 45 minutes and waiting. We're just throwing out a few calls and moving on to the next spot. There's a lot of good places around here, and we're just looking for a sign on the banks too.
We continue to look for moose sign as well. So you're not just looking for moose, you're looking for fresh prints in the gravel bars and in the sand as you travel along.
So Ryan noticed some fresh tracks coming up the bank as we were cruising along, so we just pulled over. We're gonna do a little calling from here.
This is what we're looking for right here. That's not today. You can
can tell by the leaves that have blown into it. But big spread toes and the heels pushed in. You can see that bull's chasing this cow. There's the cow prints right there. You see the difference in size? That's a cow print versus that's a big bull print. Well, we're trying to get into a swamp that's in the bush this way, and a lot of moose prints through here. Nothing fresh, but a lot of moose prints. Anyways, the bush was a little too thick, so we're gonna try to get in another way.
Well, we are just taking a quick lunch break. It doesn't seem to be a ton moving around today because we haven't seen any moose yet, but as Ryan said, things can change quickly out here, so we gotta be ready at all times.
A lot of river to flow here, I think.
We do. Well, we have a rapid coming up. It looks fairly substantial. We're gonna run it. Obviously, we're not portaging. Running rapids. What looked like a small bull that someone harvested and cut all the meat off of. So we haven't seen anybody for a long time out here, but that looked fairly recent, so it means somebody else has been in here and has gotten a moose, which I suppose is a good sign.
Well, we'd probably done 60 to 70 kilometers that day, just continuing like this, taking in the scenery, looking for moose, calling, getting out of the boat, hunting the back channels, but we hadn't had any luck. And that's when I saw a young bull moose.
Young bull, small bull. You can take it if you want. What's that? Do you want to take that one? I don't know. It's pretty small. I should have. You don't want to. I might wait for a bigger one. But if you're desperate for meat, then that'll be good eating. I don't know, man. You told me not to shoot his one. Could have got him.
I could tell it was a small moose, probably a 3-year-old moose, and we decided just to let that be, and I passed up a shot on that moose.
Jumped out and we're going to do some calling in this area. Shot I had was actually when we were a little further away, and he was kind of pointing into the bush like this, but it was kind of like some shrub in front, but I had a fucking
shot at that point. I was like right in on the Boilermaker.
You wouldn't have really been happy.
No.
This is a 600-pound moose.
Yeah, but as it got closer, I actually didn't have as good as a shot when we got closer. Yeah, he was really small. His antlers were so small when he faced me. I thought he was a cow for a second. It was a cow. Yeah. I had a pretty decent shot at it. It was pretty far. And it was pretty much a calf. Not a whole ton of meat on it.
And you know, it's tough because they say don't shoot anything the first day that you wouldn't shoot the last day. But if I had shot this, that meant that my hunt would pretty much be over and that I wouldn't really have nearly as much meat as if I'd got a larger animal. So I decided that we should keep hunting.
Give her some more power. Give her some more power. More power. More power. There you go. Perfect. Now we're a little left. Follow the beat. There you go. Right there. Yeah, slow down.
So Ryan's on the electric motor there, just to go slower and be more stealthy now that we're into a good hunting time of day. But yeah, pretty exciting to get a little action.
It wasn't too much further downriver that I glassed what ended up being a cow and 2 calves quite a ways downriver from me on a gravel bar. And I thought that was pretty cool because at first I thought it was a bull and 2 cows. That was a good ways away, but that gives you an idea of how big these Yukon moose are.
Okay, so I see 3 moose up here. It's a cow and 2 big calves. I was hoping it was a bull and 2 cows. That's 3 moose today, but 4. Can't count.
Typically when you see a cow and you're getting into the rut, which is the moose mating season, it's likely that there will be bulls around. Now, a female with 2 calves likely isn't gonna breed, so she might be kind of annoyed at a male bugging her. However, this doesn't mean that they're not gonna hang out. So we thought, okay, this needs some more inspection. Well, as we traveled along, relatively quietly too, we kicked something large up on the bank just beside us in the bush. Couldn't see it, but you know, that's a moose, that's a bull, we knew.
Well, as we were getting closer to that cow and calves, we heard a bull in the bush right here, so we're gonna pull it over and try to call it in.
And this was a very cool experience, and I'm glad that I didn't harvest that first moose just because I never would have got this experience and some other experiences that are coming. We went up a dry side channel there and saw a lot of fresh prints, saw what looked like a good sized bull print in there that was very, very likely the one we just kicked up. And so we kind of walked through the bush. Well, around that time, the cow and calf had come in off the gravel bar, and sure enough, they were less than 50 yards away from us through the bush. Now you want to be a little bit careful because a cow moose can be aggressive when it's defending its young, and so can a bull moose in the rut as well. So we kept calling using a cow call and some bull grunts to see if we could get a response from this big bull that we kicked up. And also it's a good idea to make some noise like that when you're that close to a cow with calves. If you make a noise and it thinks you're a moose, well, then you're okay. The concern is if you're not making any noise, she might think you're a predator and come over there and, you know, show you who's boss.
We came up close to the cow and calves and called there for a while. We heard a bull in the woods, but now we hear 2 bulls fighting. We're gonna try to get closer. We hear their antlers smashing into each other.
So we continued calling, and at one point it seemed like that big bull moose was gonna crash right out of the bush and it was coming to us. And I would have had maybe a 20-yard shot on it because the bush was so dense in front of me. It was a pretty intense feeling.
moose, and we sat there. We got within 50 yards or less of those cows, thinking that there'd be a bull on them. And we called and we called. Ryan was calling. I was ready with the gun. And there was a bull that we actually, likely the same one we kicked up to the right of us when we were driving towards the cows, but we could not get it to come out. It was kind of frustrating. And then it sort of, what sounded almost like bulls fighting for a sec, but it was just it basically running away or thrashing its antlers against the willows, and then just nothing, not a sound for a long time. So we think it's probably best to just move on, see if we can't see another one.
Again, we continued hunting right till it was pitch black and ended up camping right in the last spot where we were calling. Looked like a pretty good spot. There's prints and everything on the beach.
So we put the bread in there. You could see if you had a bigger piece of toast, it would seal in the whole way. Put that on like that. Put this on. Go back. It's called the double ply iron, or maybe even smaller bread would be good. And you lock the back here and cook it on the fire.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's good. Might be good with honey baked beans too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, that's that, and I'm gonna turn in and go for another magical sleep in the boat, which is turning out to be a great place to call home. And yeah, tomorrow's another day.
The next morning, we did a little bit of calling again as soon as we woke up and got out of the boat. And this is, you know, just when it was starting to get into shooting light. So I walked back to camp and put some water on to boil, and Ryan, not a far distance from camp, kept calling.
Well, we're doing some calling here around camp, and I went to go put the water on to boil. Ryan was just back at camp listening for any grunts, and around that time he saw a moose on the opposite side of the river and ran back to tell me, and I got a look at it, but it was leaving. It was walking away, so I shut off the stove and we're racing over there to see if we can entice it to come back out to the riverbank.
We kind of hid behind a down dead tree there, looking across the river, and they'd actually run right up along the river, along the same bank where we were camped, and then cut across the river, swimming and up over the next bank.
Which way you couldn't hear them? They're running along the rocks and splashing across the river. On this side, and they crossed. Fuck. Yeah, I only saw like the tail. Like I only saw like half of it going up into the bush right at the edge of the willows. Yeah, I just saw the cow.
I wouldn't have really guessed what this was. My guess was that a predator chased them off, but Ryan, who has more experience, thought that this was actually the moose fleeing because of our calls. Ryan was making cow calls and some bull calls as well, which is a grunt, and that bull probably thought, oh, there's another bigger cow around. I better, herd my cows off the island and get out of here before a bigger bull, or before I have to fight another bull, or before another bull generally steals my cows that I'm waiting, he's waiting for those cows to come into season.
We are on the river. Pretty exciting morning, actually. And so we're thinking, from what we've learned, maybe it makes sense to call a little bit. This is what Ryan's much more experienced than I am, so this is his hypothesis as well, is that the bulls really aren't in full rut yet. So we think probably that gives us a better chance spotting and stalking from the river. Anyways, overcast this morning. It's looking like it might clear up. Hopefully we don't get any rain, and be a nice enough day anyways. Warmer this morning for sure than yesterday morning, just because of those clouds. And really beautiful river. We're I think we're for the most part out of the really big mountains, but we still got some snow-capped mountains and stuff here, so pretty awesome.
So we traveled on that day and kept more or less doing the same thing, calling from the boat. And when you're calling from the boat, you're moving. So typically when you call, it can take some time for a moose to come into that call. When you're moving down the river, you're calling more often, and you're hoping that you're gonna kick up a bull moose, which just happens to be close by, happens to be sleeping in the bush right off the river. And so, we continue doing that, and you wanna stay on it. You wanna keep thinking, we're about to see a moose around the corner, or then you get lazy, and then when you see one, you're not on your game and you blow it. So I kept glassing this whole time. We were sort of, very much in this hunting frame of mind all day as we would travel. And I gotta say, it was pretty cool to travel a river under power like that. I have traveled up the Stikine after we paddled it under power, but in general, I haven't done a lot of river trips, or especially remote river trips in a beautiful area with an engine like that before. And we weren't going fast or anything, but it was enjoyable. I could just leave my cameras out to film. I didn't have to worry about them tipping over or going in the water. I could get up and get at my food in the boat and cook coffee in the boat. And but at the same time, there's a lot of similarities to canoe travel, because at the end of the day, you're going downriver with the current and looking at beautiful nature all around you. So in that aspect, it was similar to ways that I traditionally travel these rivers.
We just motored into this little side channel to do some calling, because oftentimes the cows will hang out in the side channels where the water's a little calmer instead of in the current, and the bulls will be on them there. We're out of the boat, and we're bushwhacking back into a little pond. I think there might be some moose back here. A lot of old man's beard on the trees, a lot of moss on the ground. Lots of sign here. Big bull prints, a lot of calf prints, and some really fresh stuff, so we're just on a little back channel here. Well, there is tons tons of moose sign here as we're exploring this little back channel, including fresh sign from a big bull, but it's all just deep in the bush in this island here. So, and it's still relatively early in the day, so typically moose aren't as likely to respond to calls in the day as they are in the evening. Plus, this moose clearly has a cow because there's cow prints all over. So, we know there's moose here. We could hang out and wait till this evening and try to call it out, which might be challenging and would kind of mean the rest of the day would be shot. We have a lot further to go too, so we got to take that into consideration. But we think it makes more sense to keep traveling down the river, see if we can see moose on the banks, try to creep up to them, and then explore any back channels like this again, see if we can see a cow. And hopefully if there's a cow grazing, that means that a bull will be close by. So just had a little break, a nice little spot here on a big island, had some coffee, and we're gonna stop, call in a bunch of spots, and then drive back upriver and float down past those spots where we just called, hoping that a bull will come to one of those calls. And that's probably might be better than sitting there for like 45 minutes and calling, which is, which fairly limited amount of moose hunting experience I've had, but that's what I've typically done. So I think it's gonna work.
Explored a ways up a back channel, doing some calling using the electric motor, and now this, and looks like a really moosey spot, but unfortunately not much sign, not many prints. We have some over here, Ryan, but which is kind of disappointing because it looked like it was going to be such a good spot. Anyways, we still got some more daylight left, beautiful sunset and a nice red sky, so hopefully that means it'll be a nice day tomorrow, and maybe the next stretch downriver will be better. But
well, unfortunately it's getting late and we haven't seen anything, so we're gonna pull over at a spot that looks like a good place to camp, and also looks like there could be some moose there. It's a big dry back channel, the entrance to a big dry back channel.
we didn't have any luck that night. And again, we pushed late into the evening and we got an awesome Northern Lights display. It was really, really cool as we set up camp. And in fact, we got Northern Lights displays several times on this trip. And on this particular occasion, the Northern Lights were so vibrant and so beautiful. They were right out and obvious before it was even dark out. And I didn't have to do a time lapse. I could just hold my camera up and film them. And they're amazing. They're white, purple, and the typical emerald kind of green, some reds in there. Very, very cool. For whatever reason, I had a bit of an upset stomach. I don't know, something I ate or a little bug I had before I left, but early the next morning, around 5 a.m., I had to get up and go to the washroom. See, at this time of year, it can go down to -10 at night. You can get snow and all that. And if the motor's left out of the water, the lower end and the jet propulsion engine will freeze. So you got to leave that underwater. So I have to put on my rubber boots and wade to shore. And I thought, well, I might as well call for moose here at 5 a.m. because I'm going to go back to bed. Maybe I'll bring something into the area. So I picked up a bottle of water, tried drinking that, but the water was completely frozen. I couldn't get anything. So I'd woken up Ryan, who I thought had gone back to sleep, but I'd woken up Ryan as I was clambering out of the boat. And I let a few moose calls off, some loud cow calls. And I remember it just sounding dry and just thinking that wasn't a good call. And after I finished, Ryan's like, that was the worst moose call I've ever heard. And I kind of laughed, and because he was right. So we went back to sleep and woke up at 7.
We just woke up and we just heard a bull moose. It's about 7, I think, on the other side of the river.
Clearly my calls weren't that bad because a bull moose had come right in. So we scrambled to get the boat cover open. I stuck my head out quietly and I couldn't really see it, but I saw something large just behind the willows moving back there. You know, there's no way, unfortunately, that I could have gotten a shot on it. So we're calling this moose, it's calling back. Very exciting. And this is kind of the first evidence that we had on this hunt that some of the moose were actually in rut and in their mating season. And that's the time of the season when the bulls are really trying to mate, when they're fighting. The last bull that we tried to call out of the bush back where we saw those cows, we actually thought that the sound it was so loud how it was raking the small trees and bushes. We actually thought for a second that it was 2 bull moose fighting. But then Ryan had to clamber out of the boat to go to the washroom too. By that time, the bull wasn't answering to calls. And I let out a call at that time that was maybe a little too loud. When the moose are closer like that, you got to make your calls much quieter. And when they're too close, you don't want to call at all or else you'll spook them.
Well, it's slowly getting lighter, and we think there's a bull held up in a bush over here. Ryan thinks it is, but we haven't heard a response in a little while.
So when Ryan gets to the boat, he's looking around. All of a sudden, he sees the moose way down the bank, and there's 2 cow moose swimming across the river towards the bull. So I clamber out of a boat, I pass my gun to Ryan, he's going down the thing, I'm trying to film. We're moving down, but you know, we're at the edge of the bushes so they can't see us.
We spotted some moose on the other side of the river. Turns out it was a cow, but it seems like she's trying to attract the bull that we heard that I called in to mate. So we think if we go closer to her, the bull will come that way. 380, we gotta get closer. Wait, that's a bull. That's a bull. That's a bull on our side. So we see a bull is with those cows. We're just trying to get closer. My hands are freezing. Freezing cold outside.
And Ryan has these expensive range-finding binoculars where you can look through them, press a button, and it'll tell you how far the target is away. He said, 350 yards. There's nowhere really to rest my gun on too far. Well, right around that time, the moose looked at us like this, and the wind's just changed, and they caught wind of us. And it was a freaking beautiful morning. Just the mist coming off the river, the sun rising in the east, catching that mist. Cold for sure, basically no clouds in the sky, and just this gorgeous glowing mist that was illuminated by the rising sun. It was very cool.
Well, it might have taken off, I don't know. But finally a bull is answering to the calls. Because the rut wasn't really on earlier.
That was the most exciting experience so far. I was able to call in this moose with not even a great call, have it respond to us, and get to the point where, you know, a lot of people, or if there's just a better place to rest the gun, there's too many bushes, I couldn't really get in the prone position, but you know, we could say that was another chance that really at the end of the day I also passed up just for ethical reasons as well. The last thing you want to do is wound an animal out there. You want, you know, a quick kill shot. So anything over 200 yards is not something we really planned on doing.
Well, we're gonna head back to camp. What an incredible sunrise. Amazing. just going around this little side channel where we know these moose that we saw this morning are on the island here. So we're hoping we can see one. Very shallow here, hard to get through with the jet boat. I saw one set of tracks going up the mud over on the other side. We sort of devised a plan for the day. Is we're going to kind of keep doing what we're doing and checking out these back channels where the water's calmer, it's a little more sheltered, and we're going to go in there, check them out, look for sign, you know, prints and whatnot, and do some calling, and then pick a couple of little back lakes that we can hike into that aren't too far off the river, like marshy lakes. Threw out a call, and I'm gonna go for a little hike into a little back lake here, see what we can come up with. Creeping up the bank as it's quieter. There's the lake, little pond. Okay, well, this looks like a promising spot. Relatively short walk back to a little lake, but nothing. So we'll walk back to the boat, bit of a bushwalk, and move on to the next spot downriver.
And so what we did is we ended up calling in a bunch of spots quickly, heading downriver. Then our plan was to turn around and go back upriver and call again in each spot that we'd initially called in as we came downriver, thinking we call here, we get in the boat and leave, and if it took 45 minutes, an hour for a bull to come in when we came back, maybe it would be in that surrounding area. Very shallow here, eh?
Is it? Oh, I'm stuck then.
Stuck on the sandbar here. Ryan's got a trick up his sleeve. Pretty sweet.
Next thing I got here, I gotta clean out the rocks.
The jet boat essentially sucks up water from underneath the engine and blows out the back. And so sometimes it can get stuffed full of rocks and weeds. Well, we're just trying to navigate a long, very shallow channel, and we really don't want to get stuck. A little excitement for the afternoon.
There we go. And that was impressive, eh? Like 4 inches of water, you can still just power through it.
Was it even that much? Well, I guess that last stretch, yeah. But where we're kind of stuck, there's nothing.
It was probably too late to head all the way back up to the first spot we called, but we thought we'd turn around and head back up to the last couple spots where we were calling and see if we'd been lucky and brought any bulls into that area. So with that, we turned around, we started going upriver. Well, the boat started laboring. The current was strong, but the boat started laboring. We were getting this almost a cavitation sound with the engine, and something just wasn't right. So we pulled over, and it turned out a couple large rocks were stuck in the jet propulsion output. So, you know, Ryan, being a very handy and mechanically inclined guy, knew how to fix this. And it's the kind of thing, if you're in the backcountry, you need your right tools. So Ryan pretty quickly removed the entire jet propulsion lower end after pushing those rocks back down inside. Anyway, so we made pretty fast work of that. It took some time though, and we were getting concerned. This is our last night to hunt. We're leaving the next day. We head back upriver and called at the first spot, no luck there, kept going, and it was getting pretty dark at this time, and we thought, okay, we need to pull over here. This is around where one of the spots we called at on our way downriver.
We ran into some more engine issues. These outboards cool by sucking in water, and it wasn't sucking in water, so no water was coming in, which means it'll overheat soon. So we just went over some really shallow, muddy stuff, and it sucked in a bunch of mud. But we pulled over at this gravel bar, which will probably be our campsite for the night. And Ryan's just trying to fix the motor to see if he can get blast that mud out of there, whatever's stuck in it. So yeah, I'm gonna just try to call in a moose here with the last little bit of light we have.
The entire jet here has completely come off. It's nice to have somebody who's mechanically inclined on these adventures. But this thing, despite everything that we were doing on this trip, we just went over the wrong kind of mud and it sucked it right in and clogged it. So he's having to disassemble the entire thing out here.
So this is the water pump right here. I'm gonna pull that apart. There's all this, see all this mud here?
Yeah.
I think that's what's stopping it from It's still pumping a bit.
Right.
But hopefully we clear this out and it pumps solid and we have a nice easy ride home tomorrow.
Well, I made some pasta for dinner, which was unfortunately disgusting. We should have eaten one of our freeze-dried meals because the pasta sauce I bought was just not good. It was so acidy. It was like this whole wheat pasta. And we were hoping that with the stress of this broken motor, we could at least have a good meal. So that was a little disappointing, but we did have a good fire. And Ryan stayed up, and I was more or less giving Ryan moral support at this point, and stayed up till about 1:30 in the morning trying to fix this engine and just could not figure out where the blockage was. So long story short, we couldn't really figure it out at the time. Pitch black, 1 in the morning. You got to work in the water. Ryan's trying to bend down to get this lower end off. Water's dumping in his boots. My boots are wet. And in the end, it was the pin shim that holds the impeller was totally broken. And that's not something that you can fix in the field unless you have very specific parts. So, but at the time, we couldn't figure out exactly what it was. The good news is that we were only 20K away from another access point to the river. This is not an easy access point to find. It's you can't get a truck in there, but it's more or less a 2-track ATV trail. It's a good distance off the road. There's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of mud holes and stuff like that in there. But we decided that we should take out there because to continue downriver to where our planned takeout was and where our vehicle was, would have taken us through a whitewater canyon, a challenging whitewater canyon, and then it would have been quite a bit further, probably about a total of another 30 to 40 kilometers further. So we decided to make plans to take out before the canyon at this one little kind of boat launch ATV trail. And so luckily we had our inReach satellite texting device, and Ryan coordinated with his wife Kirsty and his friend Lee. You've seen me do some other trips with Lee, that lake trout fishing trip we did in the winter up there, and the Yukon was with Lee, and they essentially planned to come in and get us.
We're safe here, right? So I wouldn't consider this a rescue, but you know, what happens in situations like this is people are like too embarrassed a lot of the time to just pick up their inReach and make a call and say, hey, I need help. You know, don't go out of there and get saved every time, because then you're doing something wrong. But if you need help, don't be afraid to ask. You know, it's not your ego or time or whatever that should dictate your travel out here, right? It's just safety and getting home in one piece and all that. So I think that's an important lesson. I think Ryan did a good job. Now we'll get to see how his new boat performs not under power.
One of the things we hadn't done with this boat is put in proper oar locks. We had to sort of make some makeshift oar locks. So we used a blowtorch to heat up the plastic gunnels on the top and just basically push those oar locks through. And then we had something we could kind of hold steady in the oar lock with one hand and push. And we found that rowing with the current added an extra 2 to 3 kilometers per hour, which was significant. So after a little bit of an action-packed start where the current almost washed us into a gravel bar, I had to get up on the bow, push off bottom, and you know, we managed to get out into the current, and we were doing better than we thought. I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like when we got into the current, how challenging it was going to be. Ryan was worried the current would push us into sweepers.
If you are doing this type of trip, it's worthwhile investing in some really long oars and putting good oar locks in your boat. Like right here, right now, this is the first time this has ever happened to me in the Yukon 15 years, done tons of rivers, and I've never had a boat fail where I haven't been able to fix it. So now we're paddling it out, and I really regret not having like really big whitewater oars.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that would be just a game changer, right?
Yeah, because you could just stand up in the middle and oar while everyone's drinking coffee, listening to music.
And turn and steer and everything. Like this thing would be like, if we could probably make it down the rapids, no problem if we had something like that.
And it'd be good for moose calling too.
Right.
Because you could be oaring along, you don't have to worry with an electric motor running out of battery or taking out a prop. So that's a learning for me.
Yeah. Can you believe how bad that pasta was last night?
Oh my God.
That's the worst pasta and sauce I've ever had in my entire life. Like you just buy a can. There's supposed to be meat in that. And it upset my stomach. It was like so acidy,
Yeah, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Last night was the worst food I've had in my entire life. I ate everything. And I was starving. And the canned soup
tastes like dog food.
Tastes like canned dog food. Not that I've tried it, but I imagine.
You know how it smells.
I was kind of dry heaving as I was trying to choke it down at 1 a.m. in the morning after pulling apart the leg
with
for
soakers.
The second time.
Yeah.
All in all, other than a few situations where we had to maneuver with the poles that were a little concerning, and the concern about missing our takeout, other than that, it was pretty easy and enjoyable just to paddle the whole way. But unfortunately at this point, due to the rescue efforts of Ryan's wife and his buddy, we knew that it probably wouldn't be a good idea to try to get a moose at this time, and we knew we'd be getting off the river quite late. So
we are close. We are very close to our takeout. And actually, we have a little more juice in the electric motor, so we're using that for the last little bit. And the current doesn't seem too strong here, so hopefully we don't miss our takeout. Still a little bit of a chance we blow it, so we're keeping our eyes peeled to make sure we catch the right spot so we don't get pushed past it.
Before I headed off on the moose hunt in the Northwest Territories, I had a call from my contact there who owns Sou'Wester Outfitters. I'm using the service of this outfitter and hunting with my friend Jamie he's actually from Labrador, but he's a Newfoundland moose guide. And he says, oh, Jim, you know what? We have an opening. Do you want to come hunt? And I said, sure. Now, I thought he was talking about 2026 because I'd already told him I couldn't make it this year because of my knee. I didn't know that he meant this year, and he basically booked me off for this moose hunt. He told other people no. He basically made plans and told my friend Jamie to have me in Newfoundland to go moose hunting. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did this. I'm so sorry. And Tori's like, well, how's your knee doing? I'm like, well, it's feeling a lot better, you know, still a little tender when I tweak it here and there, but a lot better. And Tori's like, why don't you just go? And there you go. I'm back from the Yukon for a week, and now I'm hunting in Newfoundland. So sometimes things happen for a reason, even mistakes, even not getting a moose, things happen for a reason. You know, anybody that wants to check out Ryan's business there, it's Yukon Expedition Sleds. This is a Yukon Expedition boat. You see me use the big toboggan that he makes on all my winter camping trips. Really awesome to get out there in that thing after spending a little bit of time doing some finishing touches to it in Ryan's shop, and just hearing the stories of the process of the whole build, which was pretty substantial. So yeah, all in, I'm feeling good that with the outcome of this. Sad that I didn't get an animal, but at the end of the day, that's not necessarily the only thing hunting is about. To me, it's much more, and probably because I passed up that shot on the first bull, I got all these other learning opportunities down the road that we wouldn't have gotten if I'd shot that one. And you know, maybe long run I'll get more healthy moose meat for my family long term because of what I learned there. So I think it was a smart decision. Anyways, I'm really looking forward to getting back home to see Tori and the kids, and start planning for the next adventure.